Praise the Lord, brothers and sisters. Today I would like to talk about the Barbie movie and the Sound of Freedom. But first, let me start with the Barbie movie. Why is there so much buzz about this movie? We know that this movie is not a kid friendly because it does have adult themes, mild language, and some suggestive references. However, there were few parents who felt extremely comfortable to take their children and even teens to watch this movie. The very same movie went viral on TikTok, Twitter, and other social platforms, and even conquered the theaters worldwide. So let's find out why.
This movie is not suitable for children. The movie may just contain some language not suitable for very young kids. It covers topics like gender conditioning, patriarchy, feminism, identity, toxic masculinity, the meaning of life, and other things in the real world. Many parents will wrongly believe Barbie is a kid-friendly film due to the film's ties to the popular Barbie doll franchise, including adult content, LGBT themes, among others. The film about the iconic doll forgets its core audience of families and children while catering to nostalgic adults and pushing lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender character stories. The movie received its PG-13 rating because of suggestive references and brief language. Sadly, Barbie film in favor of trans agenda and gender themes. It most certainly is a feminist film, Gerwig said to ABC News Australia. It's feminist in a way that includes everyone, she elaborated. Hari Nef's portrayal of Dr. Barbie in the film breaks harmful stereotypes and provides a positive representation of a trans woman in mainstream cinema. Kate McKinnon revealed she knew she wanted to be in the film after reading about how the script deconstructs gender roles. I knew it was going to be something, and then I read it, and it was sort of about how gender roles deny people half their humanity and how we need to just be ourselves. McKinnon said.
Greta Gerwig is the director of the Barbie movie, and she's a real feminist icon of the film. She has been receiving a lot of appreciation and love from audience across the world. For director Greta Gerwig, bringing the LGBT actors like the Alexandra Shipp, Hari Nef, and Scott Evans into the Barbie land was a no-brainer. Alexandra Shipp is a member of the LGBTQ community. Transgender star Hari Nef, who plays Dr. Barbie, told Out magazine that the film had an empowering message about being transgender. Hari Nef is a 25-year-old Jewish actress, model, writer who became the first openly transgender woman to appear on the cover of a major British magazine. Chris Evans, his brother by the name Scott, is gay, and this is what he said.
He said, "Yes, I do have a gay brother. I'm down with the gays. Mostly, I'm hanging out with him and his gay buddies, who are hilarious. They're the funniest people I know."
And not only that, Greta Gerwig felt that the film's LGBT storyline was essential, and this is what she said.
She said, "We are opening the doors to the Barbie universe. There's no way we could have told this story without bringing in the LGBTQ+ community. And it was important for us to represent the diversity that Mattel has created with all of the different Barbies and Kens that exist today."
So, the Barbie movie was full of transsexuals, transgenders, and even homosexuals. Now, did you know that the Barbie movie was banned in the Middle East? This movie was banned in several Middle Eastern countries like Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, and even Saudi Arabia. Religious beliefs in the Middle East likely played a role in the Barbie movie's ban. The film's message was all about self-acceptance, empowerment, and breaking the societal norms. Sadly, this movie did not go well in the Middle East. The film also promotes homosexuality and sexual perversion that contradict the values of faith and moral principles of Islam. Barbie's character, strong and unapologetic, was seen as a potential threat to traditional gender roles. Kuwait not only banned the Barbie movie, but it had also banned a horror film, which is Talk to Me, to protect public ethics and social traditions. In conclusion, the movie's viewpoint of gender roles, LGBTQ relationships, and the overall tone and message could be one of the main reasons why the Barbie movie was banned in the Middle East. And the ban was necessary to protect traditional values. So next, let's talk about The Sound of Freedom. What must I say? This movie is an ultimate trap. The Sound of Freedom is nothing but the sound of truth. A very compelling movie that shines an authentic light on one of the crucial criminal horrors of our time, one that Hollywood has mostly shied away from. Please watch a short clip of this video.
Sound of Freedom is an incredible, gripping and heartbreaking, but hope-giving movie with a strong Christian moral that sheds light on the need for strong men and women to stand up for God's children around the world who are caught in the vicious, abusive system of human trafficking. This movie shines a light on the reality of sex trafficking and the terrible global impact it has on children. Despite its heavy subject matter, The Sound of Freedom offers a voice to the voiceless in this inspiring true story. Tim is motivated by hope and the biblical idea that God's children are not for sale. This becomes the movie's anthem and the message the filmmakers want to convey to audiences. It also has a strong Christian, moral worldview that promotes sacrifice to protect children and acknowledges God as Father and Creator. It champions the idea that sex trafficking can be defeated with hope and strength instead of fear. Sound of Freedom is an important movie that aims to help save children and grow awareness about the reality of the global sex trafficking industry. Is Sound of Freedom okay for a child to watch? For kids who are emotionally mature enough to understand the movie, we'd say around age 13, Sound of Freedom could be a great movie for parents to introduce to their kids. Is The Sound of Freedom based on a true story? Sound of Freedom is based on a true story, but it's not a documentary. An American anti-human trafficking activist and author, Tim Ballard, played by Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, made some great efforts to stop sex trafficking and sexual exploitation. The movie details the kind of efforts Ballard made to ensure that such malpractices were controlled. What to do after watching Sound of Freedom? After seeing the film, learn more about human trafficking. If you're a parent, talk to your kids, appropriately, about what human trafficking is, monitor their social media activity online, and always know your child's whereabouts. What is The Sound of Freedom saying? God's children are not for sale. This is a quote used by Jim Caviezel's Tim Ballard in Sound of Freedom, which has a cliched title, but it has so much to say, and the execution of the material feels so committed by Caviezel and the rest of the cast. Did you know that Sound of Freedom has now sold over 8.9 million tickets, and the film has now passed $100 million in box office revenue? Sound of Freedom has become the people's movie. Why is Sound of Freedom not advertised? The Sound of Freedom may tell a very important story, however, the reason it's not being promoted is because it's from a small studio that doesn't have money for promo, they explained. The only movies that get promo are the ones who can afford to pay for it.
A lot of folks said that this movie is eye-opening. It is so well done that there is nothing visually shocking in it. People don't want to admit that this happens, but it does. One guy said, "I cannot express how important it is for Christians to go and see it. It's going to wake a lot of people up." I would say this goes far beyond Christians. This is a global issue. We need to come together for children and for all those who are in this horrible situation. It's such a heartbreaking tragedy for children to be stolen and used for sex trafficking. This movie needs to go viral. We need to put the offenders, predators, and even the traffickers on notice. So many people in the media are pushing a smear campaign against it. I can't believe why the mainstream media hates the movie and its message, because we live in a demonic world, and we as parents not only have a responsibility to protect our children, but the children of the world. Now let me share a video of why sex trafficking is a big problem. Please watch this video.
How bad is human trafficking? Here are the statistics for national human trafficking. $99 billion is estimated to be made annually through sex trafficking. 4.8 million people throughout the world are victims of forced sexual exploitation. $51 billion per year is accumulated through forced labor. This category includes any adults who involuntarily participate in the sex industry and children experiencing commercial sexual exploitation. 3.8 million victims were adults, and 1 million were children. Globally, 99% of victims were women and girls. A majority of the people are trafficked from Asia and then they are taken to Europe. 70% of female victims are trafficked into the commercial sex trade industry. 244,000 American children and youth were estimated to be at risk of child sexual exploitation, including commercial sexual exploitation. The average age of entry into sex trafficking is 12 to 14. What country has the highest rate of sex trafficking? Women are most commonly trafficked to Belgium, Italy, Lebanon, Libya, the Netherlands, Nigeria, and the United States. What age do sex traffickers target? Age of identified girls and boys. Over 50% of identified girl victims are aged between 15 and 17, whereas about 40% of trafficked boys are under 12 years of age. What are the 5 stages of sex trafficking? The 5 stages of human trafficking are luring, grooming and gaming, coercion and manipulation, exploitation, and lastly, recruitment.
Everyone in the Hollywood entertainment industry hates The Sound of Freedom. When the movie was released, all eyes were on Hollywood as it was exposed more and more about them. According to the film, a lot of human trafficking is going on in Hollywood that nobody is willing to talk about. Even more suspicious is the fact that the members from Hollywood are avoiding this topic at all cost. Please watch this video to find out why Hollywood is silent with regards to The Sound of Freedom.
3 weeks into its release, Sound of Freedom has indeed become one of the highest-grossing movies in the domestic market of North America. However, what's making people talk about the movie is the strange experiences shared by moviegoers on their social media accounts. Many people who booked tickets for this movie experienced technical glitches, AC issues, and other problems in the theaters that they visited. With more and more people reporting issues like these on social media, it became clear that this just couldn't be a coincidence, and the waters were murkier underneath. Moviegoers were distraught at Hollywood's most significant attempt to sabotage Sound of Freedom because it addresses issues that the industry had shied away from all these years. By creating such scenes in the theaters, Hollywood and the people who rally behind the industry are trying to keep problems like child sex trafficking well hidden like it has been for all these years. The real heroes of the story have been quite vocal about conspiracy theories related to child trafficking in the past, fueling the buzz around the movie. What's the conspiracy theory in this movie? The film's hero, Caviezel, has delivered many public speeches at events like QAnon, where he spoke about why no one addresses child sex trafficking openly in Hollywood. The actor's open talks about the adrenochrome conspiracy theory have not gone down well with many Hollywood biggies. For those of you who are wondering what this theory is all about, here is a brief explanation. According to this theory, child sex traffickers drain the children's blood to harvest a chemical called adrenochrome. Some performers in Hollywood inject themselves with this chemical-filled blood as it helps them stay young. The real-life personality, on whom the movie is based, Tim Ballard, has also been quite vocal about his opinions about child trafficking in the recent past.
Hollywood is trying so hard to suppress this movie. The Hollywood elites are doing everything possible to prevent so many people from seeing this movie. And even the Hollywood stars have gone completely silent and have not said a word concerning this movie. If the Hollywood is against this film, it's obvious that they are what this film is about, predators. I cannot believe that CNN is trying desperately to discredit this movie. Now, very recently, I read a powerful YouTube comment concerning the Sound of Freedom movie, and this is what he said.
This is one of the best comments for this movie that certainly deserves likes. God's children are not for sale. This line really sticks with me. It's a powerful movie that shows how decadent and perverse human beings can be. Children are the most vulnerable group of people in our society, and we are failing them terribly. Pedophiles should automatically lose all rights to privacy and have their names made public on a special register worldwide, followed by harsh sentences like life in prison, without the possibility of parole and the death penalty. No exceptions. Release the names. The people will take care of the rest. Children should be untouchable.
Did you know that the QAnon supporters were promoting the sound of freedom? Please watch this clip.
Even though the film has been such a success, it has been accused of pandering to the support of QAnon. For those unfamiliar with this word, QAnon is a conspiracy theory group with all sorts of conspiracies. One such conspiracy they had was that the former president, Donald Trump, would work to bring down a secret group of high-profile satanic child abusers as president. They also asserted that Trump would then order the arrest of said abusers, followed by their execution. However, both Caviezel, who is best known for playing Jesus in Mel Gibson's 2004 movie The Passion of the Christ, and Ballard have denied any accusation that Sound of Freedom is trying to appeal to QAnon supporters.
Did you know that Donald Trump promotes the sound of freedom? I'm going to share 3 different clips. The first one is Trump holds a roundtable conference on human trafficking. The next clip will be Trump calls for the death penalty for human traffickers. And the third clip will be Trump promotes the sound of freedom.
So before we turn to our law enforcement folks at the table, what we'd like to do is turn to Tim Ballard, who is the founder and CEO of Operation Underground, and also to Alma Fecker. Thanks to both of them for being here, the founder and president of the International Network of Hearts. They'll be talking to us about their experience assisting victims, sir. So I'd like to start with, perhaps with Tim and then with Alma.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you very much. I spent 12 years as a special agent, as an undercover operator, working on the southern border, working sex trafficking cases. And I can tell you, you're exactly right. One little girl I can tell you about, in fact, I introduced this little girl to Miss Trump during a private briefing. This little girl was kidnapped in Central America, 11 years old, groomed for 2 years, with the intent of getting her ready to come to America. Why? Because we are the highest consuming nation of child pornography. We are the clientele that's the big money. They brought this little girl through a part of the southern border where there was no wall, easily got her to New York City, and this is hard to hear, but this is the truth, and everyone needs to hear this. This little girl, and this is a very typical, for money every day, 30 to 40 times a day. If that's not a crisis, if that's not an emergency, I don't know what is. Now let me say this, had there been a wall, had there been a barrier, this little girl likely would have been saved, because the traffickers would have been forced to take this child through the port of entry, where we have amazing law enforcement. I've worked with these people. These are the best people on the planet. They can detect, they have equipment, they have trained agents. In contrast, while this was happening, I was working another case. A little boy, a Mexican boy who was kidnapped by an American trafficker by a child pornographer. He kidnapped Mexican children, brought them to San Bernardino County, where he had a makeshift studio, made child porn with these little children, 5 years old. This little boy was kidnapped in Mexicali, Mexico, where there was a wall, where there is a barrier, and so he was forced to take this little boy through the Calexico port of entry, and guess what? It worked. We captured him. We rescued the little boy, and subsequently rescued 12 other children in San Bernardino, California. The difference between those two cases is 2 + 2 = 4. The wall was the difference. The wall rescued this little boy, and the lack of a wall caused this little girl to go through a hell that is indescribable, that is not manufactured. It is a real crisis. It is a real emergency.
And you have many thousands of people like this.
Thousands. This is happening all the time. We work in Mexico. We have done several operations. I've just met with the Secretary of State, their equivalent, Olga Sanchez, just last month about this. We are having to do operations in Mexico, our foundation, working with law enforcement, to essentially become the wall, because there is no wall. We're forward deployed. It's like trying to catch flies with chopsticks. It works. We can make it work. But if we had a big, fly swatter, which is the wall, that'd be a lot better. Yeah. It stops it.
That's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank you.
it very much. Please. I was thrilled to host a screening at Bedminster of the important new film, Sound of Freedom, about the power of faith in overcoming evil, and in particular, the evil of child trafficking. Big problem. We had it down to the lowest number in many years just 4 years ago, and now it's gone through the roof. Even though the fake news media has tried to ignore it, Sound of Freedom has been a national sensation and a colossal success at the box office, really big numbers. Everyone should see it. This is a very important film and very important movie, and it's a very important documentary all wrapped up in one. It's really about an issue that has to be discussed. Under my leadership, we did more than any administration in history to combat human trafficking and to end modern-day slavery. In one of my first acts in office, I signed an executive order targeting transnational criminal organizations that traffic and exploit innocent people. I signed the Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act, authorizing $430 million to fight sex and labor trafficking. I signed legislation to crack down on foreign countries who are not meeting standards for eliminating trafficking, of which there are many. I also signed into law the Abolish Human Trafficking Act, which strengthened programs supporting survivors and provided more resources for ending modern slavery. We do have modern slavery, if you can believe it. Additionally, I created the first ever White House position focused solely on combating human trafficking. And perhaps most importantly, we created the most secure border in U.S. history by far, dealing a major blow to the cartels and traffickers. We built hundreds of miles of wall. We renovated hundreds of miles of wall. We never had anything like it. And then I got Mexico free of charge to give us 28,000 soldiers to protect us from people coming into our country illegally. When I am back in the White House, I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable women and children. We will fully secure the border. I will wage war on the cartels just as I destroyed the ISIS caliphate, 100% gone, 100% destroyed. They'll come back now because we have a weak administration. I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries and without delay. And I will urge Congress to ensure that anyone caught trafficking children across our border receives the death penalty immediately, and that includes also for women, because women, as you know, are number one in trafficking. Children are actually number two. I want to thank Eduardo, Jim, Tim Ballard, and everyone else involved in this film for their incredible efforts and their great genius. Together, we will end the scourge of human trafficking, and we will defend the dignity of human life. Thank you very much.
Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina called it an amazing, gut-wrenching, emotional movie. Wow. Wow. Wow, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas wrote of the film, urging supporters to see it. And on Wednesday, former President Donald Trump hosted an event featuring a screening of the movie, Sound of Freedom, at his private club in New Jersey. The most striking sign yet of how the unlikely box office hit has captured the imagination of American conservatives.
Did you know that Tim Ballard had rescued 3,800 victims? Of those 3,800, Tim and his wife Catherine have personally adopted 2. I mean, this guy has a passion for rescuing exploited children around the world, and he's leading the charge against sex trafficking. Did you know that The Sound of Freedom was endorsed by Mel Gibson? He, in fact, urged the people to go and see the film. Now, why are churches silent about the Barbie movie? Why are they afraid to stand up and speak the truth against this movie? And I want to know, why is Hollywood, banking, politicians, and even big organizations are silent with regards to the Sound of Freedom. A guy on Facebook by the name Joshua Enior did a comparison between the two movies. So let's look at the comparison, shall we? Now, Joshua Enior wants to know, why is the Barbie movie being heavily promoted and praised by the mainstream media while the same mainstream media undervalues, demonize, and try to silence the Sound of Freedom movie despite being a box office hit? It's simply because of the message. And the message of Barbie is this.
The message from Barbie is as follows. 1. Men are useless. 2. A traditional family is irrelevant. 3. What makes a woman is her physical beauty. 4. Anyone can be a Barbie, even a man. As you know, Dr. Barbie is a trans. 5. The future is feminist and sexually diverse, women are the head, and men are to submit. Key slogan of this movie. She's everything. He's just Ken, which is an understatement. And to add to this, Barbie has a loud pro-abortion message with the opening scene depicting two little girls smashing their dolls and saying we don't have to be mothers anymore. The message from the Sound of Freedom is as follows. 1. Parents are essential. 2. Traditional families are fundamental. 3. Real men defend the innocence of children. 4. The future depends on moral men of faith who have enough courage to protect their own homes and the children who grow up without them. Key slogan of this movie. God's children are not for sale. As you can see, as East is West, the messages are completely opposite. What else can you expect from Hollywood and their media tentacles? Thieves and pedophiles' den. Choose wisely where you spend your money, time, and most of all, your brain neurons.
Brother Joshua Enior is right. I'm in total agreement with him. You know, what's so sad is that the world refuses to acknowledge and value the alpha male and the traditional family. I mean, without strong men, we are a weak nation that is crumbling. We live in a world full of fake people. And there are so many parents that are lukewarm. And if you look at their children, they're just like their parents, and some of them are even worse than their parents. How can you expect a child to be godly if the parents are not pursuing holiness? I request every man to stand up and be a man of God. And I request every woman to stand up and be a woman of God. And children, please be wise and respect and obey your parents. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to stay in His Word and be blessed.